every song is totally different in terms of how it's produced and written and recorded and what order those all happen in. In this song's case, the very first piece of it was I was alone at some point near the end of 2019, sitting and making a drum beat, which became the sort of main percussion element of this song. Really just these. So just the drums, and then added this on top of that. And then these crazy kind of fucked up old sounding strings from the output plugin Analog Strings. And then this is called Future Lurker. It's an 808 studio plugin, and then with sample delay, clip distortion, Valhalla Room, a channel EQ, and Little Altar Boy on it, which sounded like some Hans Zimmer type things. And that, without a billion plugins, sounds like this. So really different. Throw some sample delay, throw some clip distortion on it, throw some Valhalla Room, some channel EQ, Little Altar Boy. Nasty. Yeah, I mean, I think that's also one of the things that I've learned, so to speak, in terms of like music production, is like the starting place for a sound that you find, if it's a sample that you've actually recorded yourself in the room, if it's the sound of a patch on a keyboard that you recorded in the room, if it's a sample that you find in a sample bank that you purchased, that's a great starting place, but it doesn't mean that you can't sort of change it into something kind of unrecognizable. So this is a case where we really did that. I think to me that's the satisfying thing, is like when you take something where you're like, okay, this is what it looks like when you don't dress it up. And then when you dress it up, it takes on so much character and totally changes the way that it actually is. The component sort of like plugin wise of this song, I started before the new Logic Pro update, which has a really amazing Drum Machine Designer quick sampler update. So that's all I use now. But at the time I was using Battery. That was my primary engine. And so, for anyone that's like not like 100% familiar with Battery, like I adore Battery as a plugin. And so I'll just go through my library and pick out a sound. And then like this felt really cool. This was just this kind of like, reminded me of like a zipper. This just felt like really interesting. And then I popped this plugin Pan Man on it, which again, just for imaging, like just takes things out of just like sort of monomania. Without it, obviously, wildly different, but just comes straight down the middle. And I just thought that adding this sort of, it's just called hard bounce MIDI. So it's happening all the time. I just thought that added a real sort of like depth to it that was really exciting. This primary kick, really sort of straightforward. Like to me, it's like about like the actual sound itself and then the sounds that I'm layering it with. So once I find a good sound, then I'm pretty excited about it. So here's like kick, and then there's a 1 and 3 kick. So the first one, this is just 1 and 1. Yeah. 1 and 1. And then claps, coupled with the 2 and 4 snare, coupled with a 4 snare, coupled with this thing, it's just a whoop. These are like this kind of crappy tom sound that I just thought was great. It doesn't come into the chorus, but that sounds like, 20th Century Fox or something. Amused me. I mean, that's really like the, essentially like all of the drums for that part. And, I've always tried to keep like rhythms in songs like, with exception, like I love minimalism. I love simplicity. So anything that's just like a wonderful foundation for other things to develop is really exciting to me. And I mean, to me, that sort of like drum kit, so to speak. It's really about how it coexists with, you know, things like the bass line, because that really is where like the pocket comes in to me, which is this like. So that bass is really happening primarily on the 8th note, essentially in time with zipper, which is really what is the sort of 8th note hi-hat. And that's pretty singable right there. Like you can sing along to the bass line, which is sort of a lesson I learned from like Bad Guy. It's like how fun it is to make an instrumental part that's like really hooky and you can sort of sing it in your own right, as opposed to only thinking of like the vocal line as the thing that you'd sing along to. This awesome plugin called 808 Studio that I think I got like at some point in like 2018, probably when I was working on Bury a Friend. It's a really great plugin. There's actually 2 of them now, 808 Studio and 808 Studio 2. Started the song before 808 Studio 2 came out. And there's just a million different parameters, as you can see. You know, I tweaked all the envelopes on this, the sub-oct. There's just a lot of different parameters that you can tweak on this plugin, which is great, as opposed to like, I think, you know, some cases people would just be sort of like finding an 808 sample and then, you know, throwing it on a keyboard. And this engine is just really, really fun. So that's where this lives. And then, yeah, I just heard in my head, just heard these cool strings. Analog strings, one of the cooler plugins Output's ever made. Like, I mean, these faders of dirt and delay and pitch, it is so satisfying. And they add such a good image to the whole thing. So, yeah, I mean, that's essentially the kind of like existence of the drum samples in this case.